Good afternoon and welcome to week 3 and happy Halloween. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I want to get this week started by first of all thanking you for your participation in the discussion board within the first 2 weeks. As I mentioned earlier in the class, that is one way that we are able to build community in an online platform. So I do appreciate how you are responding back and forth to each other in regards to the topic and are really driving the topics forward. I also want to thank you for your first week assignments as well as your websites. I really do value the time and effort that you're putting into this. I know this is a very busy time of year, and I look forward as we keep moving, just keep on moving forward as we proceed through the course. So for this week, we are going to be looking at something called the ISTE Technology Skills and Standards. And what that is the International Society for Technology and Education Standards, and we'll get to that here in a moment. But we're really going to be looking at, how are we reflecting upon our practices in terms of technology and how are we moving it forward with how we are leveraging it. We're going to be starting to look at how we are collaborating with each other to problem solve, to share ideas, etc., etc. And then also start to look at how are we incorporating technology so that students can start to plan, locate, evaluate, and select new information to solve problems. So to help us do that this week, you're going to start by looking at the ISTE standards. And it should come up here. Give it 1 second. It's just there. Didn't want to cooperate with me, but let's click it here. There we go. So when you look at the ISTE standards, they were developed looking at students and educators, education leaders, and something that's new within the last several years has really been looking at coaches as well as the ISTE computational thinking competencies. But for our purposes, we're really going to be landing here looking at students and educators. So as we look at students, one of the things that you are going to notice, I'm not sure why this link is not wanting to, there we go. What you're going to notice is that it is laid out in a very similar format as you would see English standards or math standards or social science standards, and that they are numbered. But as we move through, you're going to be developing lesson plans that are going to ask you, I am having a lot of pop-ups today. It's going to ask you to list the standards for your lesson plan. So one of the things I wanted to draw your attention to is within the pop-out. So for example, this week it's going to ask you to identify 2 ISTE standards. So what I really want you to do is to not only identify the big standard, but what is a sub-standard so that we can start to dive into very specifics. And as you look at this, there is digital citizenship, empowering the learner, innovative designer, etc., etc. So pop all these out and start to look at them. And again, these are the student standards, and then we have the educator, etc., etc. So make sure that you are familiar with that as we will build upon those as we move through this class. Another tool that you're going to be using in this class is a rubric maker. So your next couple of assignments will ask you to develop a rubric for grading student work. So make sure that you are familiar with these resources and that you can apply them as you build out a rubric as you look to grade student work. And then we jump into the SAMR model, which is the substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition model. Think of this as kind of the Bloom's taxonomy of technology. Looking at its most basic form is the enhancement, which is the substitution and the augmentation, and then really looking at moving technology forward and really transforming your lesson plans, which is looking at the modification and the redefinition. To help you out, there's a fun video on the SAMR model looking at it from a Starbucks lens. And so that's in its very simplest form. And if you click on that and watch the video, it's about 6 minutes, but you'll get the idea in terms of just looking at Starbucks using this model. And then you have a short video from Sir Ken Robinson looking at changing education paradigms. So you can click on that link and it'll take you right to the video. We also have 2 discussion boards this week. One is looking at the ISTE standards. and looking at technology within your own classroom. What are you currently using, and then where does it fall along the lines of the SAMR model? So, I think our ultimate goal is to look at, kind of some of those higher levels, but, as we're just beginning this course, be truthful and be honest in terms of where you feel it falls, and then chat about it here in the discussion board. And then in the second one, you're going to read Diane Laufenberg's How to Learn from Mistakes, and you're going to write about whether or not you agree with it, and then you're going to be providing an example, and then try to make sure that you're citing back from her short video. And then this week we do have an assignment, and I have the link shared here. And so within the assignment, you are going to create a lesson in which students are going to be applying what they learned to create something new. And so for this week, you're going to be developing a lesson plan, and you're going to be, within that lesson plan, you're going to have the students use technology to locate and to evaluate information using online tools, and then they're going to use that information to create something that answers a question, satisfies learning standards, or draw a conclusion. So you're going to write a lesson plan. You're going to create an assessment rubric, which is back here. You have some tools to do that. And then you're going to be creating a student project sample. Okay, so where some of the confusion here is sometimes, you're not creating that sample. So what you're going to do is you're essentially going to create a finished student product. So whatever the lesson plan is leading towards, you're going to create that final student project. So the best thing to do is to start here, which is a sample student, which is a sample lesson plan. Actually, I take that back. Start here, which is a video review of the assignment number 3, and then look at the sample lesson. So my one word of wisdom here is to use this template exact form. So exactly what it says here: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and then having the example here. So if you turn in something like this, which is your own assignment but following this exact same template, I will tell you 99.9% of the time you're going to land in a very good spot in terms of meeting the requirements for this project, because you're going to hit your rubric, you're going to hit your standards, you're going to hit your essential questions, your learning objective, your ISTE standards. The one thing I would note here is please make sure that they are numbered. I'm a very stickler for that. I like to see standards that are numbered. I like to see where you're exactly pointing to. And then you have your detailed learning plan with your sample student work and then your resources. Okay, so again, look at your video review, look at your sample assignment, and then look at your rubric in terms of what is required of you. So again, to recap, we're going to look at the ISTE standards. We're going to look at the SAMR model. We have some tools on utilizing a rubric, 2 discussion boards, and a design project. And last but not least, we have your Christian message. So if you read from these 2 scripture passages, they really reflect on exceeding expectations and going the extra mile. And I liken these two to really looking at from that customer service oriented mindset, which is kind of going the extra mile, making sure people feel welcome. And then, it's just really that golden rule, making sure that we're treating others as we'd like to be treated. It's something I've really tried to do as we've kind of navigated the last 2 years of COVID, is to really, walk in other people's shoes and really demonstrate empathy. And I really look at the empathy from exceeding expectations, because I think often in order to exceed expectations, we kind of have to understand where others are coming from, kind of what some of their background is, and really what is it that they need in terms of what we can provide in terms of support. So as you look at last week's lesson, in which we were looking at building those parent relationships, start to think about how can we exceed the expectation of our parents, not just meet it, but exceed it. So with that, have a wonderful week. I look forward to looking at your discussion boards throughout the week, and I will be posting on there, as well as looking at your final project. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out. God bless.